Hey there folks, I'm Angel, and today we're going to be carving a simple Joseph. So this is out of a 1.5 inch basswood block. You can also carve them in 2 inches. Of course, there's a 1 inch version, which is what we're going to be doing today. So one of the biggest problems to get started carving is knowing what to draw and how to draw it. That's why I made these stencils. You get accurate, symmetric drawings every single time so that they don't look like spaghetti. Alright, enough blabbering, let me show you how I carve them. Folks, so this design is available in 3 sizes, the 1 inch version, the 1.5 inch version, and the 2 inch version. And today we're going to be cutting a 1 inch version. These are the other simple looking designs that we have. So this is a simple Mother Mary and then the simple Jesus, and these are also available in the same store. Okay, so to get started, we're just going to have a 1 inch square piece of basswood, and this is about 5.25 inches long. I don't really know the measurement. In fact, you don't need to know it. All you need to know is that your stencil needs to fit on the piece of wood. So there it is right there. I've already taken this to the bandsaw, as you can see my little scribe line over here. So I'm just putting it on here, and then I'm going to trace as many open lines as I can. And this is going to be the front left section. So for the front, we're going to trace all the interior lines. When we take this to the back, we're just going to trace out the silhouette. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on that. Now when we get to this section down here, remember this is going to be the split in the robe. So this side I'm only going to do this lower line. I'm going to do the other side. Okay, so when you get to the bottom section of this robe, ignore this bottom one since you've already done it on the other side. Okay, and there you go. There's your figure on the front. So now let's go ahead and do the back side. So here we're just going to do the silhouette. Okay, there you have it. So that's a perfect silhouette on the back side, which is excellent because now all we need to do is remove this material right here. And the same for the other side. And folks, it's really important that you get a mechanical pencil to do this. Otherwise, your pencil point will not fit into these holes. These are about 1 millimeter wide, so I use a 0.5 millimeter Kudu Toga. I'm going to have a link to this pencil in the description of this video. Check down there. I'm also going to have a list of all the tools that I use. I normally rely on the knife, but I will be using a number of gouges and a V-tool as well. So as you can imagine, the first thing we're going to do is get rid of this blank space right here. Okay, so I'm using a flex cut roughing knife that I've profiled to be a little bit more aggressive than the one that you get from the factory. Any carving knife should do for this. This blank space right here, let's just go ahead and take all that stuff off. So all you're doing is matching this back line to this front line. Okay, so now to get to this little trough right here, we're just going to make a series of V cuts. So try to get the knife in there as deep as you can. V cut from that side, V cut from the other side. And the reason you have to do that is because the grain direction, right? So the wood is like a series of straws and you have to appease them. Okay, and it doesn't need to be perfect, but you know, the closer you get to the line, the less material that you're going to have as excess. So, okay, now let's do this bottom side right here. You can easily just flip it over. Now what I like to do is do a stop cut right here, and then come with my knife and pull it with my left thumb. Right, and there. You saw how that knife just stopped right there, and then that piece of wood just kind of went free. So let's do it all the way from the bottom. And right there. Let's take off all that material right there. Okay. Excellent. That's a nice silhouette on that side. Let's do the other side. Excellent. So now your figure should look something like this, with these sides ticking down. So the next thing that we're going to do is work on the face. So that, to me, is the most difficult, so let's go ahead and get it out of the way. So we're going to start down here, and we're going to take off all these lines. So it can be a little daunting because, well, that's the majority of your design. But, well, that's why there's another piece to the stencil, and I'll show you in just a second. Okay, so kind of like that, kind of just to the edges of the beard there. Okay, and then we're also going to do the bottom side. So this one, try to only take it to that point right there. These 2 points where the sleeves kind of start to come back up. Right there. Perfect. But this one you can take a little bit more if you want to. So now let's work on that face section. So the second part of this stencil is this face piece right here. And we have it exactly for this purpose because we're going to shave off a whole lot of it and then we got to come back and fix it up. So what I use is a little bit of poster putty. This one is well worn, that top section right here, and a little bit down here. Now I attach it where it needs to be. Move it around some. Okay, good. So there it is, and now I can trace out the sections that I erased with the knife. So there's the top of the hairline. If it comes off, just press it again. Draw in the beard, the mouth. Can be a little tricky to hold in place, but you know, it's totally worth it to get those proportions correct. Okay, let's see if that works out. Yep, that's exactly everything that we needed. If there's anything missing, you can obviously just fill it in. It's kind of interesting the way that your brain works with this, is it doesn't really need everything. You can kind of recognize what's missing and fill it in. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my knife and I'm going to score the perimeter of the face. So right over here. I'm going fairly deep with the knife. Obviously, be careful with where you put your fingers. If this knife slips it, it could be a pretty bad day. So there we go. And now, we're just going to come in with our knife, and we're going to relief that. So we're going to set the face into the hood. Just like that. And if you feel like it doesn't have enough depth, then just come back with your knife, give it a little bit more. And you can come back, take off just a little bit more material. Just like that. Here. And do that all around the face. Okay, try not to erase these beard lines just yet. So let's go ahead and shape the face just a little bit more. Okay, now we can shape that beard as well. So with that same knife, just score those lines. You don't need to go too deep, just enough that you can then separate it from the face. Okay, and shape the beard just a little bit too. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and shape that mouth. So just take your knife and lightly score the shape of the mouth. Maybe a second pass. Like that, and take the tip of your knife and just relief cut that. That should pop out right there. Yep, excellent. And if you want more than that, then you can obviously do whatever you'd like, but I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so this part's not so bad. Let's go ahead and draw that hair back in there. You can obviously refer back to the stencil, or you can just, you know, kind of wing it. There we go. Okay, just come in with your knife and carve right on up to it. Okay, and score the top just a little bit and set it back. There we go. That's looking pretty good. And you can always come back and clean this up a little bit. Okay, that looks good. Alright, let's shape the top of this hood right here. Kind of work our way down. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, now let's go and trace around that line. So I'm going to use a V-tool, and I'm going to come down over here. I'm going to stay away from that line and shape it like that. Okay, so there's that line right there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to redraw these lines for the hands. So come in right here. And then the line for the bottom of the hands is right here. Okay, make sure you finish extending those just so you can get a final shape for what they're supposed to look like. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do with this V-tool is we're going to do a line that's completely across right here. So take it like this and go all the way across underneath both sleeves. Okay, and then you can also, while you're here, to use that V-tool and trace out these lines down here. You can just match these up. Okay, so now that we did all that, let's ignore it and do the backside, naturally. So take your knife and take off that corner. Okay, and then the same thing for this right here. Okay, and round over that hood. So now is where we get to kind of draw and decide what we want the shape of this hood to look like. And these, I just kind of gave it I don't know, kind of a smooth round back right there. And I think that's reasonable for this hood. So if you have a different design that you think would work, go with that. Give it a try. Same thing over here. Let's use our V-tool and trace that line out. And these V-tools really help to get that knife in there so you can get a good stop cut, right? Because that's really what we're doing here is we're going to leave this material up here, but with our knife we're going to come in and we're going to score this so we have a nice deep stop cut so we can remove all the material from the bottom. Right. So here we go. There you go. See, a nice big stop cut. Okay, so this is the back of the cloak. Okay, so now let's go ahead and shape that hood a little bit more. Okay, so now it's still very blocky back here, so we're going to take some of this off. And we're going to kind of sweep this back section over a little bit. Yeah, let's roll your knife on there. Let's get a nice round shape. Okay, excellent. So now let's go and do a stop cut right over here. This one is probably not as deep as the one on the back. Good. Let's round over the bottom of this hood over here a little bit. Just to kind of help us start visualizing what needs to go, what needs to be reduced, what needs to stay. Excellent. Okay, so now let's do this underside right here. Okay, and also don't erase that V-tool line. Go ahead and score it with your knife. So that one gets to be fairly deep. And remember, this part of the robe gets tucked underneath the other side, so this will be kind of the one that's wrapping around the back. Okay. And this section down here can get a little bit tricky in how you hold it. So let's see. We're going to go over here. I'm going to remove some of that material like that. So now just generally start to shape the robe to what it is that you want. Kind of give it a gentle sweep upward. Now separate it from the arms. But don't take too much, because remember that you only got an inch of material there, so don't go crazy. Okay, now back here is the interesting part as well. Look at that, that's looking pretty good. That's right, so we have a pretty good general shape. Take off these lines a little bit. So you see that right there? That means that we have a change of grain direction. So you can either go very smooth and gentle right there, or you can just go in the other direction. So it takes a very sharp knife to cut uphill or against the grain rather, and have it turn out fine. Got this general shape going. You can always take a couple more slices off and get the right shape that you want. Okay, good. So now let's go and shape these hands and the robe, the sleeves part of it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to score the hands right up until I get to the sleeves. So like that. Okay. I'm going to take this one over here and score that one. I'm going to do this one fairly deep. All right, right there. I'm going to come from up here and do this line as well. Now, I can remove these lines because those are all stop cuts. There you go, like that. And this one right over here. And on this side. Okay, and do this exact same thing on the other side. Okay, so for this section, do the same thing. You're going to relieve all those interior pieces. Okay, now we're going to give it some character by scoring that and coming down a little bit. And the same thing on the other side. Scoring that and coming down. Okay, and you can obviously take that down a little bit more if you want to. Okay, so now we're going to kind of even this out with the hood. So we're going to start to take off this material right over here. There we go. Take that piece out of there. Excellent. Okay, and let's take off that line right there and just kind of clean it up a little bit. Okay. Now, since you have the final, that'll be kind of the final shape that his chest is going to take. So now you can clean up this hood a little bit more. So you can take off all those pencil lines and all the hard square edges. This is a little bit easier to do on the 1.5 or the 2-inch size because there's more material there. There's more wood. But it also means that you got to remove more material. So, it's really funny scaling up to the 2-inch block. I was kind of surprised at how much material I actually had to take off. It was quite a bit. Okay. So now let's go and do the rest of these hands. So all I do is I take my knife and I score it very lightly right here. Very lightly along that line that's still there. Okay, and then I come in with my knife and the hands, I want them to be underneath. So I go like that. Okay, now I can take my knife and score that. And score that. Okay, I'm not going to take it off just yet because I need to get rid of this section right here. So this piece right here in the middle, we need to take that off. So to do that, on this 1-inch piece, I use a number 1, and this is just a regular flat chisel and it's maybe, I don't know, 4 millimeters wide, something like that, 3 millimeters. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to score this right here as far down as I can on both sides. Then I'm going to do my stop cut with the knife on the back side here. You don't need to pull it, just kind of poke with the knife, like that. Okay. Now with that chisel, you can come in and remove that material. And it works really well because then you can also use that as a stop cut. So like this. You could try doing this with other tools, but I find that this one, at least for this size, it's kind of the best tool for this job. Great. Okay. And just kind of make it flush with that bottom section right here. Okay, so now these sleeves, we're gonna just kind of shape them with the knife. So we're gonna kind of roll the knife as we come upward. So once again, score it a little bit deeper if you need to, but it shouldn't be that much that you need to do. Okay, and then just kind of round over these bottom sides. So it actually looks like a sleeve. Okay, there we go. That looks good. And then you can also start to shape the hands themselves. Okay, and round over the hands, and the same thing for the other side. And undoubtedly, one set of sleeves is going to be larger than the other, so do what you need to do. Okay, and then round over the cuff, just to get rid of all those hard edges. Now finish shaping the hands. So you can leave them like that, or you can give them a little bit more definition. So I like to give them a little bit more. Go like that. And I like to draw a line right down the middle. So let's see if that's where the middle is. That looks to be about it. Yep. And just kind of separate the hands. Okay, now let's separate the robe a little bit more from the sleeves. Okay, so now back here, well, you know what, let's finish these sleeves right here. Okay, so just round over the bottom sides. That's really all we need to do. And get rid of these pencil lines, if you have any left. And on this side as well. Get rid of any fuzzies on there. Okay. And of course you can, always go around the carving and nitpick at something and be like, oh, this needs a little bit more shaving off there, a little bit of there. And that's perfectly fine. But otherwise this is a fairly simple, fairly quick little carving. And I think it's rather impressive. Okay, so the only thing left to do here, let me see, right? Am I joshing you guys? No. Is if you want to, on the back side, is do these arms where they come up like this. And this one I put a little kind of tassels and a belt kind of thing. You could do that if you'd like. There's plenty of space over here to put whatever you want, but for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to do that. So this one I just kind of went like this and drew it like that. Right, so went in a little bit deeper and went like that. And then drew a second line like that. Do a couple folds. Oh, that reminds me. One other thing that we should do here is give these arms a little bit more texture right here. So another line there, another line there. Okay, so just take the knife, score it, and take out a little V. That's all you need. Score it, take out a little V. Yep. That gives it more of a crease look to the elbow. All right, excellent. Okay, so over here, same thing. We're just going to take our knife, score that, and over here we're going to go up a little bit. And all we need to do is just take out that sliver of wood. So make sure that anything that you remove kind of looks cohesive, right? So make sure that the robe looks kind of straight like this and not like a wave or something like that. Okay, and the same thing on this side. So like this. Okay, and then do that second one right here. And there you go. Gives it like it's almost like a little wrinkle under the armpit. There you go. Okay, that looks pretty good, you know, and just make sure that they're at the same height. Otherwise, you're going to end up chasing it. Okay, so now we're just kind of making sure that the flow and the shape of the robe in the back are similar, right? If not exactly the same. And just take off these hard edges on the arms. Okay. And just shape the body a little bit more. And of course you can come back to the hood over here and shape this a little bit more. Right, it's really kind of a trial and error at this point with this guy, is you know, seeing how much you actually need to remove from the hood to make it look kind of the shape that you want, right? But otherwise, if I were in production mode and said, hey, I need to carve 20 of these guys, this guy is pretty much done. Is a simple Joseph. Alright. Simple Joseph, and there you go. So yeah, if you wanted to, you can add some tassels over here. Actually, the last thing to really make this guy stand out is to give him a little bit of texture. So for that, I use a number 7. And this one is number 7, 10 millimeter, and the L stands for bent neck. So this guy is a bent neck, so it's quite easy to handle. I like to hold it like this and just kind of do the entirety of the robe, right? And just give myself some nice semi-smooth and relatively short strokes. You don't want them to be super long because you want to give them texture. And this actually helps when you're painting, right? If you know what the dry brush technique is, all those ridges are going to get caught on the brush, which means that you're going to get a lot more texture when you dry brush. And it will look really, really nice. And in fact, I tend to do that to all these figures that have this kind of simple sort of look to them. And don't go too deep, otherwise, you know, you're going to have to come back with the knife and kind of redo some of that texture, some of that shape. So especially right here on the sleeves, don't take everything off. It's very easy to get carried away and just kind of take off those little crease marks that you put in there. And for this character, you don't need to do this to everything. I would just say the robe is pretty much it. Don't do the hood. You know, I made that mistake of doing the hood, and I definitely regret it. So for this part right here, I kind of do these sideways. All right, and then upward over here. So right here, do them sideways. And you want to make sure that this gouge is also razor sharp, very sharp. I like these from File. They're reliable, that's for sure. And they also, benefit is that they come sharp right out of the box. So, and they stay sharp for a very, very long time. But they're also easy to sharpen because they have a very simple profile to them. Okay, alright, I think. Alright guys, I think I'm going to call this one done. And if I do anything else, it'll be off camera. But here you go, folks, that's what that looks like. And this is what that hood looks like if you do gouge it. I would not say that's, you know, I'm going to go back and take that off eventually. There you go, guys. Simple Joseph. I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope it works out for you guys.